So it may seem a sort of a strange double bill, my putting together El Patrullero and Edge City. May not seem the most obvious pairing of films, but I guess what I think they have in common, which I don't know if it's immediately apparent, is that both they're outsiders films, in the sense that Edge City was my student film, which was made at UCLA from 78 to 1980, color and black and white, over a period of 3 years, and a film shot in 9 weeks in northern Mexico by a professional crew from Estudios America in Mexico City. So although they're quite different, they have this thing of the outsiders aspect for me in Los Angeles, for me in Lorenzo, and the Japanese executive producers in Mexico City. And yet I think in both cases the films are of the place. I think they're fairly authentic, well, to a certain extent authentic representations of the way things were at that time in both places. There's a lot of driving in both films too. Los Angeles, the home of Edge City and UCLA, is a city famously based on cars. And Michael Miner and Michael the cinematographer, we would put a suction grip on the hood of this sort of classic English sports car that belonged to the assistant director, and we'd drive around the valley. In those days it was almost deserted, and get these vast vistas of empty freeways and make a nasty mark on the hood of her car. And that became the kind of the center or the spine or the skeleton or something of Edge City. Highway Patrolman, he spends like 14 hours a day in his car. It's like a car-based film, and based again on a certain documentary aspect, in that the story is that of a real highway patrolman that Lorenzo and I knew in Mexico. His name was Poncho Granados, and he told us a lot of the stories that the film is based on, and he's the guy who gave me this hat. Casting error in the first film, in the sense of the director playing the lead character in the film. That shouldn't happen. And my excuse was that the actor who'd come out to play the part, Bill Wood, had come from England, could only stay 2 weeks. It was going to take us 2 years to make the film. Pathetic excuse. In El Patrullero, the casting is very good, I think. It was beautifully cast by Miguel Sandoval and Claudia Becker, the film. But Roberto Sosa isn't really the type of highway patrolman. The highway patrolman is very macho and big, and Roberto's a very little guy, chaparrito. But I thought, when I met him and all the other actors and auditioned them in Mexico City, that boy, he was the best actor I met, And so I just thought, well, cast him, cast the best actor, and it turned out okay. Both films have very different editing strategies, but they come out of the time. Edge City, I was very influenced by Nicholas Roeg, very influenced by Lindsay Anderson, and so there's that kind of trippy associative editing style to the film. Although within that there are some long takes. There's a couple of very long scenes that was playing a master, which are perhaps, my favorite scenes. El Patrullero is all like that. El Patrullero, every scene plays in a master. We were trying, Lorenzo, me, Cecilia, the production designer, Miguel Garzon, the cinematographer, to give the film this kind of seamless quality, like you were present within the frame and you could choose what it was you were going to look at, which you can only really do in a master if you're given the opportunity to let your eye take in the frame. Otherwise, cut directs your vision accordingly. And we were in this phase where we really wanted to kind of break out of the rules and do something a little bit different and more original, and it was part of a movement. They were doing it in Mexico at the time. Arturo Ripstein, the great director, was the master of plano sequencia, and this is merely a film in his footsteps. Script by Lorenzo, who was also the producer. I kept the script entirely. It was the first time I ever did that. Edge City is totally all cut up all over the place. The script changed constantly as we went through. Highway Patrolman, the film is an exact copy of Lorenzo's screenplay. Probably better for it. Lorenzo.